What's up, YouTube? I am the Vanilla Nerd, and today I want to talk about Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, I recently rewatched this in preparation for this video, and I'm excited to talk about my feelings towards Solo and this movie. But before we do that, quick spoiler warning for Solo. If you haven't seen it, get out now. I will be spoiling it from start to finish. And also, I'll be talking about the original trilogy movies a lot with how this movie works as a prequel for those movies. And stuff like that. So if you haven't seen the original trilogy, some of my critiques might not make sense, but mainly they'll just be spoilers for Solo, a Star Wars story. Let's get into it. Okay, so my thoughts on this movie are a bit divided. Overall, I don't really like this film. However, the first time I watched it, I did enjoy it. And I think the reason is because if you ignore the original trilogy, if you ignore who the character of Han Solo is supposed to be, I think you can just enjoy this film as a popcorn action film. You shut off your brain and you just enjoy the action, and it's a lot of fun. There are some very fun action scenes in this movie. There are some very fun character moments between all of the characters. There are some funny lines. There are some touching moments. It works pretty well as a popcorn action movie, but I think it works really poorly as a Solo prequel movie specifically. Now, I talked about this a bit in my last video, talking about what Disney did to Han Solo and why I don't like it. But the quick spark notes from that is the fact that Han Solo never completes a successful smuggling mission in this movie, so he's shown to be a bad smuggler, which is a problem. And also, Han Solo is shown to be a bad pilot in this film, which is also very, very frustrating. And again, that's not in line with what Han Solo should be, and so this is a bad Han Solo prequel movie. If you were to ask me what were some of the core aspects of Han Solo's character, I'd say he's supposed to be a really good pilot and a really good smuggler. And yet, neither of those is he particularly good at in this film. And it's not like he goes on a character arc where he starts out as really bad at both of these things and gets good at them by the end. No, he's just bad throughout. Like, there's a really sweet moment where they're on the Millennium Falcon, they have to get away. Beckett tells Han, go fly the ship. Han looks at Lando because Lando still owns the ship, and he's just like, hey, can I fly your ship? He gives him that respect. And Lando nods and says, yeah, I give you my permission. It's really touching. It shows that Lando is trusting Han Solo. It works. It's great, right? Right. Except for the fact that Han Solo immediately proceeds to wreck the Millennium Falcon. And it's all done in the name of nostalgia, because the Millennium Falcon starts out all nice and pristine here in this movie, and we get to see how does it get all wrecked and beat up like we know and love in Episode 4. And it just bothers me to no end, because the way they did that is by having Han wreck the ship completely and fully. And it just makes it such a bad prequel movie for Han Solo. Because despite the fact that this movie didn't care about being a good Han Solo prequel for the character of Han Solo, it actually hindered itself by trying too hard to be a prequel for Han Solo's backstory, right? We have every last little detail of Han Solo explained in this film, which makes no sense to me, right? We see how Han got his blaster. We see how his friendship with Chewie started, and his friendship with Lando started, how he gets the Millennium Falcon, how the Millennium Falcon does the Kessel Run. Every last little detail. And the worst offender of this is the dice. Like, we see Han Solo's dice that he hangs up in the Millennium Falcon. And this one especially bothers me because it used to be kind of like an inside joke between the super fans of Star Wars and Star Wars itself, where it's like, yeah, we hung up dice. You can't see them really all that much in Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6, but they're there, and it's just a fun little, nod to the fact that we Earth people like to hang up dice in our cars. But in this one, they bring it to the forefront, and so now it's like this really weird thing, because it's like, wait, it pulled me out of Star Wars, because I'm like, no, the dice are supposed to be an Easter egg, not something that's thrown in your face and shown and focused on multiple times throughout this movie. I really don't like the dice, and the fact that they showed them to us all, it bothered me. Now, I will say, I don't mind all of these things. I like that we get to see how Han and Chewie first became friends. I like that we get to see him and Lando. I like that we get to see him fly the Millennium Falcon and do the Kessel Run. Those are all cool things that I really wanted to see, and I'm really glad that we got to see on screen. But it was the sheer volume of the number of prequel tie-ins that they gave. Han did not need to have his famous blaster. They did not need to beat up the Millennium Falcon to show how it got from one end to the other. And the whole subplot with L3 being logged into the Navi computer, and that's why you need to hit the Millennium Falcon, just makes no sense. In all honesty, surrounding the Millennium Falcon's beat up nature, I always assumed that Han was just like a really cool car guy, right? He just makes a bunch of modifications to his spaceship, and he doesn't mind if it looks like trash as long as it runs beautifully. So yeah, he has a few holes in it so he can get access to some other areas and stuff like that. And yeah, sometimes he has to hit the ship to make it work, just like any car guy has to do. But they didn't do that in this movie. Instead, they gave it some weird backstory with the L3, as well as Han trashing the ship and showing off how bad of a pilot he is. All right, I think I've ranted enough about how bad this movie is. Let's talk about some of the good things, right? So, I loved Lando. Lando was perfect in this movie. He was so funny. And Donald Glover, the actor who plays him, just absolutely encapsulated the spirit of Lando Calrissian. He was suave, he was cool, he was fun, and I really liked that about Lando. Same thing goes for Qi'ra. She worked excellently as a femme fatale. It was really fun making her this childhood love interest of Han Solo, and then as she's grown and been scarred and traumatized, and becomes more cynical, right? She is no longer a trustworthy person in Han's life, and it just works so well, where Han wants to trust her desperately because he still remembers those fond memories, but he realizes that she has changed, and so he lets her go in the end, and I think that works beautifully. On top of that, Tobias Beckett is excellent. Everything except his last scene, which I'll get into here in a second, but I like that we have a morally gray character in Tobias to be Han's mentor, which explains why he has become such a cynical, jaded kind of person compared to his good-natured self that he was at the beginning of the film. So I think that worked really well, and I really liked Tobias Beckett. Now, I did say I didn't like his final scene. In the end, he shoots the two guards up in the little suite, right? And then he takes the coaxium with Chewie. But then he doesn't shoot the other three. I feel like he absolutely should have. Like, why not? Then you can just take the ship and fly away. Now you have a ship and coaxium. And yeah, the ship is probably being tracked by Crimson Dawn and the people above Crimson Dawn, i.e. Darth Maul, which I'll talk about Darth Maul later. But the point is like, you'd still have a ship that you can fly away immediately, and then you can buy a new ship with your wealth of coaxium, dump that ship and run away, and that all works if you just kill them all. But instead, because you don't kill them and then you run off with Chewie, you leave them to catch up with you, which is exactly what happens. Han catches up with them and then kills them. And it's just, okay, you were kind of stupid there. But the plot has to plot, right? Right. I want to talk briefly about L3. I think she was fine for the story. I actually liked some of her scenes with Qi'ra and Lando. I thought they were funny. And I really like when she causes a droid rebellion. That's entertaining. But yeah, I don't like that they had to upload her brain into the Millennium Falcon to make it work. It just, it bothers me. But whatevs. Lastly, we have the main villain, Dryden Voss. And my biggest complaint with him is that he's introduced so late into this movie. Like, it's about an hour into the film until he is finally introduced, and yet he's supposed to be the big bad that we satisfyingly kill at the end. And the worst part about it is that not only do they introduce him late, but also he has no personal connection to Han Solo. Han Solo has no personal stake in the matter to want to kill Dryden Voss. And that just baffles me. Like, this is supposed to be our main antagonist for the film, and yet he and the main character have nothing in common. They don't really have a reason to fight each other all that much. I guess maybe over the allegiance of Qi'ra, but it's just, what? Why? Why is it so bad? Anyway, this movie is not that great. And this brings me back to Han Solo and my last problem that I have with him, which is the fact that he's kind of got too much of a heart of gold. At no point in this film is he more morally suspect than those around him. He always has the moral high ground compared to everyone else. And that just baffles me because he's supposed to be this smuggler who loves money more than people. He's supposed to be the kind of guy who's going to take the money and run, not join the fight against the Death Star. And yet, after this film, I don't feel that way towards him. I think he'd actually would help out with the Death Star run. And I don't know why he leaves. And again, bad prequel here. It just baffles me. And to cite some specific examples, like he saves Lando's life, he saves Chewie's life, admittedly out of necessity initially, and then he helps Tobias Beckett because he feels bad that he got Val and the other little guy killed. So he's like, yeah, I'll go help you square your debt with Crimson Dawn. And it's like, why are you so nice? You're supposed to be kind of evil. And the worst one is, in the end, he ends up giving away the coaxium to the rebellion. And it's like, no. He's not supposed to have this change of heart, this growth until episode 4. They kind of make it good by having him saying, no, I don't want to join your rebellion. But I don't know why he doesn't want to join the rebellion at this point. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, admittedly, to this movie's credit, which maybe is giving it too much credit, it is possible that with him giving up the coaxium to the rebellion, it's more of like he had no other choice. He was captured by the rebellion, and he knew that the only way he was going to survive is if he worked together with them, even though he didn't like it. Okay, fair, but the movie made no attempts to explain that. It just kind of hinted at that might have happened off screen. And again, that's a bad movie and a bad prequel, and I don't like it for Han Solo. To finish up this review, I want to talk about a few of the odd choices this movie made that, some of them I don't like, some of them are just weird, and we'll just talk about it here. Well, the first thing I want to say is the Lady Proxima. You probably don't remember her, but she's the little worm lady at the beginning of this film. The opening text, the exposition that this movie is absolutely gifted with because it's a Star Wars film, and Star Wars fans are fine with reading a bit of exposition to start off their movies. That's great. You have a great boon. You have an opportunity just to tell us what's going on. And they choose to waste some of those precious sentences, precious words, I would even say, on introducing a character called Lady Proxima who dives underwater before the first act is even over and is never seen from or heard of again. Like, why did you waste all that time? Why did you bother expositing to me that this character exists only to have her not be relevant to the most of this story? Why? In a similarly poor choice, they chose not to show Han Solo in a TIE fighter. I do not know why. He is a TIE fighter pilot. They do say that in this movie. He at least at one point was that, but they never show it. I know there's one deleted scene of him doing that, but one deleted scene does not make up for this. That is not what I wanted. I wanted an entire first act to be centered around him being a TIE fighter pilot. He should have been the Top Gun Maverick of the Star Wars universe in a TIE fighter. We should have seen him destroying X-Wings, or if you don't want to get the Rebellion involved, some other ship in his TIE fighter and being an ace pilot, doing things we've never seen before. Very akin to like Star Wars Episode 7, where we got to see Finn and Poe in a TIE fighter. That was really cool. Why not have more of that? But no, this movie doesn't do that, and I'm just bothered, especially since they had the opportunity to do that in the first act, but instead we got to see a glorified car chase in a speeder run of Corellia. Yay. I get to see speeders on Corellia. I just 10 times would have preferred TIE fighters and not speeders. Just bothers me. Also, I completely forgot that Han Solo got his last name because some Imperial officer realized he had no family name. That's just really goofy. And it's especially ironic because this comes before Episode 9, where Rey also had a goofy instance of getting her last name as a Skywalker. Both of them make no sense, but here we are. And for some reason, Han Solo is proud of his last name despite being given it by an Imperial officer randomly one day. I don't like it. He should have just been called Solo, and we don't need an explanation for it. But this is the movie we've been given, not the movie we wanted. Now, I will talk about what I would have wanted out of a Solo movie in another video, but for now, this is my review of Solo, A Star Wars Story. And I want to make it clear, there are some cool scenes in here. The train heist is particularly cool. I really like that scene. I like how the train moves. I like how the stormtroopers had their magnetic boots. I like how there was this really fun action scene there. That was really cool. And the Kessel Run, despite all the battle damage that the Millennium Falcon endures, was actually pretty cool and a fun little explanation as to why, you can why completing the Kessel Run in only 12 parsecs is very impressive. that all works really well. Lando, again, was really good. Kira was a fun femme fatale. Tobias was an appropriately morally gray mentor to Han Solo. So there was a lot of good stuff in this movie, but the plot was tenuous at best. And you kind of have to shut your brain off if you want to enjoy this film. And especially you have to forget who Han Solo is supposed to be and just enjoy whatever version we got here. The one thing I will give to this Han Solo, because I do want to end on a positive note, is that I really liked all the times Han Solo talked himself out of situations in this movie. Whether it was Lady Proxima with the little rock grenade, or Dryden Voss and him interrupting Kira and saying, "But there's a chance, right? There's a chance," or him, with much bravado telling the rebellion, "There's 20 armed soldiers in that freighter down there ready to come out and kill you if I just give them the signal," and then the Millennium Falcon leaves. All of the scenes were funny, all of them were well done, and felt like Han Solo. So they got that aspect of Han Solo right, him being able to talk his way out of anything. But a lot of the other aspects they failed on, which is why I don't like Solo: A Star Wars Story and why I don't like this movie.